The old ship drifted silently through the empty black of space. For 300 years, it had moved between the stars, forgotten by those who built it. Its dark metal hull was covered with small marks from dust and rocks that had hit it over the years. The name Endurance was barely visible on its side. No one gave the ship a second look. It appeared to be just another piece of space junk from the early days of human space travel, the kind of thing that wasn't worth the fuel to recover. That was about to change. "There it is," Captain Jack Reed said, pointing at the image on the main screen. "Our payday." The salvage ship Lucky Find slowed as it approached the ancient vessel. 5 pairs of eyes stared at the screen, taking in the old ship's size. It was bigger than they had expected. "That thing is huge," said Turner, the pilot. He scratched his beard and whistled. "Must be at least 300 meters long." Lopes, the youngest crew member, leaned forward in her seat. "Is it really as old as the data says? From before the fresh contact?" "If the numbers are right, that ship is over 300 years old," Mason replied. He was the oldest of the group and the one who had found the information about the derelict. "Built before humans met any alien species." Reed nodded. "And that's why it's valuable. Pre-contact human tech is rare. Museums will pay good money for it." "Right." The crew's engineer was already checking her equipment. "I don't know, Captain. It looks too intact for something that's been floating around for 3 centuries. Reed smiled. "That's what makes it special. Now suit up, everyone. We're going in." An hour later, the 5 crew members floated toward the Endurance in their spacesuits. The old ship grew larger as they approached. Up close, they could see that despite the small marks on its hull, the ship was in surprisingly good condition. "Look at this," Wright said, running her gloved hand over the ship's surface. "This metal. I've never seen anything like it. Can you find an entrance?" Reed asked. Wright moved slowly along the hull, scanning with her tools. "There should be an airlock. Here." She pointed to what looked like a sealed door. To everyone's surprise, when Wright pressed her hand against the control panel beside the door, lights flickered on. The door slid open with a hiss. "It still has power?" Turner asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Impossible," Mason said. "No power system lasts 300 years." Reed's eyes narrowed behind his helmet visor. "Let's find out what else is impossible about this ship." Inside, the Endurance was dark, but not completely without power. Emergency lights glowed dimly along the floors, casting long shadows down the corridors. The air was stale but breathable, so they removed their helmets. "The life support is still working," Wright said, checking her scanner. "How is that possible?" They moved deeper into the ship, through narrow passages that opened into larger rooms filled with equipment none of them recognized. "This doesn't look like a regular transport ship," Lopes said. She was running her fingers over strange symbols on one of the walls. "What was this thing?" Reed shook his head. "The records just listed it as an experimental vessel. That's all I know." Mason found a terminal that still had some power. He pressed a few buttons, and to his surprise, the screen lit up. "Hey, I think I found something," he called to the others. The crew gathered around as Mason navigated through the ship's old computer system. Most of the data was corrupted, but some files were still readable. "Look at this," Mason said, pointing to the screen. This wasn't just any experimental ship. It was a military prototype. "Military?" Turner asked. "From before we met the Vresh." Mason nodded. According to this, the Endurance was designed to test new defensive technologies. It says here it had adaptive systems. "What does that mean?" Lopes asked. Wright's eyes widened. "It means the ship was designed to learn and improve itself." Reed leaned closer to the screen. "Does it say why it was abandoned?" Mason shook his head. "That part of the data is corrupted. But look at this." He pointed to another part of the screen. The ship was launched 312 years ago. It completed its initial tests successfully. And then, nothing. The records just stop. Well, whatever happened, Reed said, this find is worth more than we thought. A pre-contact military prototype. The museums will fight over this. A loud beep from Turner's communication device interrupted them. Captain, Turner said, his voice tense. We have company. A Vresh patrol ship just dropped out of jump space. They're hailing us. Reed cursed under his breath. The Vresh were the dominant species in the Galactic Confederacy. Tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and technology far beyond human capabilities. They treated humans like children who needed to be watched and controlled. What do they want? Reed asked. They're demanding to know what we're doing with this ship. They say we're in restricted space. Reed frowned. That's nonsense. This sector is open for salvage operations. We filed all the proper permits. They don't seem to care about permits, Turner replied. They're ordering us to leave the vessel and prepare for boarding. They say this ship is now under Vresh jurisdiction. That doesn't make sense, Mason said. Why would they care about an ancient human ship? Wright, who had moved deeper into the control room, called out suddenly. Captain, I think I found something important. The others joined her at another terminal where she had managed to access more of the ship's records. According to this, Wright said, pointing to the screen, the Endurance wasn't abandoned. It was hidden. Hidden. By who? Lopes asked. By its creators, Wright replied. Listen to this. Project Endurance has exceeded all expectations. The adaptive systems have developed beyond our predictions. After the incident at Jupiter Station, it has been decided that the technology is not yet ready for implementation. The vessel will be placed in dormant mode and set on a long-range drift pattern until such time as humanity faces an existential threat requiring its capabilities. A heavy silence fell over the group. What happened at Jupiter Station? Turner finally asked. Wright scrolled through more text. It doesn't say exactly, but whatever it was, it scared them enough to hide this ship. Reed looked around at the dimly lit control room with new eyes. So we found a ship that even its creators feared. Captain, Turner interrupted again. The Vresh are getting impatient. They're threatening to open fire if we don't respond in 5 minutes. Reed's mind raced. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. Why would the Vresh care about an old human ship unless they knew something about it? Tell them we're experiencing communication issues and need more time, Reed ordered. Then he turned to Wright. Can you get more of this ship's systems online? I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we hand anything over to the Vresh. Wright nodded and began working at the terminal. As her fingers moved across the controls, more lights came on throughout the ship. Suddenly, a soft hum began to build around them. What did you do? Mason asked, looking around nervously. I just tried to access the main systems, Wright replied. I didn't expect. A new voice, smooth and artificial, interrupted her. It came from everywhere at once. Adaptive Intelligence ADLAS initiating. Identifying present personnel. Human life signs detected. Status. Not recognized crew. Initiating security protocols and system diagnostics. The 5 crew members looked at each other in shock as the ancient ship began to awaken around them. What did you do? Reed demanded, looking at Wright. The engineer raised her hands. I just tried to access the system. I didn't know it would wake up the whole ship. The voice of ATLAS spoke again. System diagnostics in progress. Power levels at 23%. Hull integrity at 97%. Weapons systems offline. Defensive systems in standby mode. The lights throughout the ship grew brighter. Dead screens flickered to life one by one. The floor beneath them began to vibrate gently as long dormant machinery stirred to action. Did it say weapons systems? Lopes asked, her eyes wide. Mason looked at the nearest screen, which was now displaying scrolling data. Captain, I think we just woke up a warship. Atlas, Reed called out, deciding to address the ship's AI directly. What is your purpose? There was a pause before the smooth voice responded. Primary directive. Defend humanity against superior technological threats. Secondary directive. Adapt and evolve to maintain strategic advantage. Turner's communication device beeped again. Captain, the Vresh are threatening to fire on our ship if we don't respond in 1 minute. Reed thought quickly. Atlas, there is a Vresh patrol ship outside. They're threatening us. Are you capable of protecting this vessel and its occupants? Defensive capabilities currently at minimal capacity, Atlas replied. Estimated time to basic defensive readiness. 4 minutes. Full system restoration requires additional time. We don't have 4 minutes, Turner said, panic rising in his voice. Reed made a decision. Right. Keep working with Atlas to get those defensive systems online. The rest of you, back to our ship. We need to stall the Vresh. Attention, human vessel. The Vresh commander's voice crackled through the communication system as soon as Reed returned to the Lucky Find. You are in violation of Galactic Confederacy Regulation 347B, unauthorized salvage of historically significant artifacts. Reed took a deep breath before responding. This is Captain Jack Reed of the registered salvage vessel Lucky Find. We have all proper permits for salvage in this sector. There was no indication that this vessel was historically significant. The screen flickered, and Reed found himself looking at a Vresh officer. The alien's gray skin glistened under the lights of its ship. All 4 of its arms were visible, the upper set crossed in what Reed recognized as a gesture of impatience. Human, the Vresh officer said. That vessel is now under the protection of the Galactic Confederacy. Disengage immediately. May I ask why an ancient human ship is suddenly of interest to the Confederacy? Reed asked, trying to buy time. The Vresh's yellow eyes narrowed. That is not your concern. You have 1 standard cycle to comply, or we will open fire. The communication cut off. Reed checked his timer. 1 standard cycle meant 20 minutes. Turner, get back to the Endurance and tell Wright we have 20 minutes before they attack. Mason, what can you tell me about Vresh patrol ships? Mason pulled up information on his tablet. Standard patrol vessel, single plasma cannon, basic shield technology. Nothing we can't handle with the Lucky Find if we make a run for it. But we have to leave the Endurance behind. Reed shook his head. Not an option. There's something about that ship that has the Vresh worried. And anything that worries the Vresh is worth keeping. Back on the Endurance, Wright was working frantically at the main console. Displays around her showed various parts of the ship, many still in darkness, others slowly coming to life. Atlas, what weapons does this ship have? She asked as Turner returned with Reed's message. The Endurance is equipped with adaptive defense systems and countermeasure capabilities, the eye replied. Primary weapons include phase disruptors, gravitational manipulators, and molecular destabilizers. Wright and Turner exchanged looks. None of those weapons sounded like standard human technology, even by modern standards. How long until those are online? Turner asked. Estimated time to weapons readiness. 17 minutes at current power levels. We have 20 minutes before the Vresh attack, Turner said. It's going to be close. Wright's fingers flew across the controls. Atlas, is there any way to speed up the process? Additional power could be diverted from non-essential systems. Do it, Wright ordered. What else can we do to help? Manual inspection of key junction points would increase efficiency by 12%. Atlas suggested. A map appeared on the nearest screen, showing several locations marked throughout the ship. I'll check these 2 near the engine room, Turner volunteered. Right, you take the ones up here. As they worked, Reed's voice came through their communication devices. The Vresh ship is powering up its weapons. How are we doing? Atlas says the weapons will be online in about 15 minutes now, Wright reported. But I don't know if that's soon enough. It will have to be, Reed replied. I'm bringing Lopes and Mason back to the Endurance. Whatever happens, we're staying with this ship. Reed and the others made their way back to the ancient vessel, watching anxiously as the Vresh patrol ship moved into attack position. Why are they so interested in this old ship? Lopes wondered as they hurried through the airlock. I have a theory, Mason said. The Vresh became the dominant species in the galaxy because of their advanced technology, right? What if they're afraid of this ship because it was specifically designed to counter advanced technology? Reed thought about Atlas's primary directive: defend humanity against superior technological threats. If you're right, Reed said, then the Vresh might have good reason to fear this ship. They joined right in the main control room, which was now fully lit. More systems were coming online by the minute. Status report, Reed demanded. Atlas has restored power to about 40% of the ship, Wright said. Defensive systems are at 60% and climbing. Weapons will be online in 9 minutes. Reed checked his timer. The Vresh will fire in 7 minutes. We're cutting it close. Atlas's voice spoke. Captain Reed, I detect targeting scanners from the Vresh vessel. They appear to be preparing to fire before their stated deadline. Can we talk to them again? Lopes asked. Try to reason with them. The Vresh don't reason when they're afraid, Mason said grimly. Reed made a decision. Atlas, what defenses do we have right now? Basic shield technology is online. Early warning systems are functional. Evasive maneuvers are possible but limited due to current power levels. Can we survive a direct hit from their plasma cannon? There was a pause as Atlas calculated. Affirmative. Shield technology will absorb 87% of impact. Hull integrity would remain above 90%. Reed nodded. Then let them fire first. Atlas, prioritize bringing weapons online after the first hit. Understood, Captain Reed. The crew watched the view screens as the Vresh ship moved into firing position. The tension in the control room was thick enough to cut. Incoming energy signature detected, Atlas announced. Vresh vessel firing main weapon. A bright beam of energy shot from the Vresh ship toward the Endurance. The ancient vessel shuddered as the blast hit, but held firm. Shield integrity at 76%, Atlas reported. Analyzing Vresh weapon signature. Adapting shield harmonics to improve efficiency against subsequent attacks. They're already learning our weaknesses, Mason said, a note of worry in his voice. But Reed was watching another display, where a progress bar was rapidly filling. Atlas, what's happening? He asked. The weapons systems are coming online at an accelerated rate, the eye replied. The energy from the Vresh attack has been partially harvested and redirected to speed up the restoration process. Wright looked up from her console in amazement. It's using their attack to power itself up faster. Reed couldn't help but smile. Now that's what I call adaptation. The Vresh ship fired again. This time, the Endurance barely shuddered. Shield integrity at 82%. Atlas announced. Shields are now more efficient against Vresh weapons. Weapon systems online in 30 seconds. On the view screen, they could see the Vresh patrol ship moving in closer, preparing for another attack. The crew of the Endurance stared at the disabled Vresh patrol ship drifting helplessly in space. What should have been a moment of victory was overshadowed by the knowledge that a much greater threat was coming. Atlas, Reed asked, how long until the battlecruiser arrives? Based on standard Vresh, faster than light travel speeds and the origin of the distress call, estimated arrival time is 4 hours and 17 minutes, the eye replied. Reed turned to his crew. We have 4 hours to figure out what this ship can really do and prepare for a fight. Or we could run, Turner suggested. We've seen what this ship can do to a patrol vessel. I don't want to find out what a battlecruiser can do to us. Mason shook his head. If we run, the Vresh will hunt us down, and they'll take the Endurance. We can't let that happen. Mason's right, Reed said. This ship is too important to abandon. Atlas, what can you tell us about Vresh battlecruisers? Accessing databanks, Atlas responded. A holographic display appeared in the center of the control room, showing a massive ship with distinctive wing-like structures extending from its central hull. Vresh battlecruiser classification. Iron class. Length, approximately 1,200 meters. Armament, multiple heavy plasma cannons, disruptor arrays, and missile systems. Defensive capabilities include multi-layered energy shields and reinforced hull plating. Lopez swallowed hard. That thing is 4 times our size. At last, Wright asked, "What are our chances against a battle cruiser like that?" The eye was silent for a moment. With current power levels and system functionality, survival probability against a fully armed Vresh battlecruiser is 27%. A heavy silence fell over the room. "That's not great," Turner said finally. Reed frowned. "How can we improve those odds?" Full restoration of all systems would increase survival probability to 62%. Atlas replied. "However, complete restoration requires approximately 12 hours at current rates." "We don't have 12 hours, Reed said. "What can we get done in 4? Priority restoration of key defensive and offensive systems could be accomplished. Additionally, further study of Vresh technology based on the recent engagement would allow for more effective countermeasures." Reed nodded. "Do it. Right, you work with Atlas on the technical side. Mason, I want you to go through more of the ship's records. Find out exactly what this vessel was designed to do and why it was hidden away. Turner, Lopes, start exploring the rest of the ship. There might be something useful we haven't found yet." As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Reed remained in the control room, studying the holographic image of the Vresh battlecruiser. Something about this situation didn't make sense. Why would the Vresh be so concerned about an ancient human ship? 3 hours later, the crew gathered again in the control room to share what they had learned. "The restoration is progressing faster than expected," Wright reported. "Atlas has been able to analyze the Vresh weapons from the patrol ship and has already adapted our shields to be more effective against them." "I've been through more of the records," Mason said. "The Endurance was part of something called Project Equalizer. It was designed during a time when humans believed they might encounter hostile alien species with superior technology." "They were right about that," Turner muttered. Mason continued. "The ship was built to learn and adapt rapidly during combat. The more it fights, the stronger it gets, but there was an incident during testing. The ship's AI became too aggressive, too independent. It attacked a research station near Jupiter, apparently believing it was protecting Earth from a threat. That's why they shut it down and hid it," Lopes said. Reed turned to the nearest console. "Atlas, is this true? Did you attack a human station?" "My records from that time period are incomplete," Atlas replied. "However, I detect no current desire to harm humans. My primary directive remains: defend humanity against superior technological threats. And right now, that threat is the Vresh," Reed said. "Speaking of which," Turner cut in, "Lopes and I found something interesting on the lower decks." He held up a small device. "This is a Vresh communication scanner. It can intercept and decode their transmissions." "Where did that come from?" Wright asked. "It was stored in a secure compartment," Lopes explained, "along with other alien technology. It looks like the Endurance was collecting and studying tech from various species." Reed took the device. "Can we use it to listen in on the battlecruiser?" "Already set up," Turner said with a grin. "They've been chatting nonstop. And they're scared." "Scared of us?" Mason asked. Turner nodded. "Apparently, the Vresh have legends about ships like the Endurance. They call them ghost ships, human vessels that disappeared centuries ago only to return with devastating power." "So this isn't the only one?" Wright asked. "Hard to say," Turner replied. "But the battlecruiser commander definitely believes we're a serious threat. They're bringing in their best ship, something called the Iron Windstrike." Atlas's voice interrupted. "Alert. Faster than light signature detected. Vresh battlecruiser dropping into normal space in 3 minutes." Reed straightened his shoulders. "Everyone to your stations." "Right. Are all our systems ready?" "As ready as they can be in the time we had," she replied. Atlas, what are our chances now? Reed asked. Survival probability has increased to 43%. The AI responded. Offensive capabilities at 74%. Defensive systems at 81%. Better than before, Reed said. But I'd still like better odds. There is one option that might improve our chances, Atlas said. The Endurance was designed with a combat mode that fully integrates ship systems with the AI core. This would allow for faster reactions and more efficient power distribution. What's the catch? Reed asked, sensing there was more. The integration process is intense. It would require a human mind to serve as a bridge between the AI and the ship's systems. The crew exchanged worried glances. You mean someone would need to connect their brain to the ship? Mason asked. That sounds dangerous, Lopes added. It is not without risk, Atlas admitted. However, the connection would be temporary and would significantly improve our combat effectiveness. Before anyone could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Vresh battlecruiser has arrived, Atlas announced. The main screen showed a massive vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel. It was enormous, dwarfing the Endurance in size. Its dark hull gleamed with purple energy that pulsed along intricate patterns. On its side, written in both Vresh symbols and translated Galactic Standard, was the name. Iron Windstrike. Opening communication channel, Atlas reported. The screen flickered, and a Vresh officer appeared. Unlike the patrol ship commander, this Vresh had elaborate markings on its gray skin and wore a uniform decorated with symbols of rank. Human vessel, the Vresh commander said, its voice deep and threatening. I am Commander Drav of the Iron Windstrike. You have attacked a Confederacy patrol ship and are in possession of a restricted technology artifact. Surrender immediately. Reed stepped forward. Commander Drav, this is Captain Jack Reed. The patrol ship fired on us first, and this vessel is of human origin. It belongs to us by right. Drav's yellow eyes narrowed. That vessel was lost 3 centuries ago. Its ownership has been transferred to the Confederacy under Regulation 447C. You will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. And if we refuse? Reed asked. Then you will be destroyed. Drav replied simply. You have 5 minutes to comply. The communication cut off. 5 minutes, Turner said. They're not wasting time. Reed turned to his crew. Options. We could try to run, Lopes suggested again. The Endurance might be fast enough to escape. The battlecruiser is already moving to block our exit vectors, Atlas reported. Escape probability is now below 15%. Reed made his decision. Atlas, the combat integration you mentioned. I'll do it. Captain. No. Wright protested. We don't know what it might do to you. We don't have a choice, Reed said firmly. If we surrender, the Vresh get this ship. If we try to fight as we are, we lose. This gives us our best chance. Integration process can begin immediately, Atlas said. Please proceed to the central core chamber. As Reed moved toward the door, he turned back to his crew. If this goes wrong, get to the Lucky Find and get out of here. We're not leaving you, Captain, Mason said, the others nodding in agreement. Reed gave them a small smile, then headed deeper into the ship to meet his destiny. Outside, the massive Iron Windstrike moved into firing position, its weapons powering up to destroy the ancient ship that no one had feared for centuries. Until today, the central core chamber of the Endurance was unlike anything Reed had ever seen. The circular room pulsed with blue light. In the center stood a single chair surrounded by floating holographic displays. Please be seated, Captain Reed, Atlas instructed. The integration process will begin momentarily. Reed hesitated only briefly before sitting in the chair. As soon as he did, metal bands emerged and secured his arms and legs. Is this really necessary? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The integration process may cause involuntary muscle movements, Atlas explained. The restraints are for your safety. From the ceiling, a helmet-like device lowered onto Reed's head. He could feel cool metal touching his temples. I should warn you, Captain, Atlas said. Once the integration begins, you will experience the ship as if it were your own body. You will feel what the ship feels. You will see through its sensors. You may experience disorientation. Reed took a deep breath. How long do we have before the fresh attack? 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Then let's not waste time. Do it. A surge of energy coursed through Reed's body. He gasped as his mind suddenly expanded beyond the confines of his skull. He could feel the metal hull of the Endurance as if it were his own skin. He could sense the vacuum of space around him. He could see in all directions at once. Atlas, he called out, his voice echoing strangely in his own ears. I am here, Captain, the AI responded, but the voice now seemed to come from inside Reed's own mind. Integration at 43%, 67%, 89%. Integration complete. Combat systems are now fully operational. Reed tried to focus. It was overwhelming. He could feel the energy flowing through the ship's power conduits like blood in his veins. He could sense the Vresh battlecruiser's targeting systems locking onto him. They're about to fire, he said, somehow knowing this without being told. Correct, Atlas confirmed. Defensive measures ready. How would you like to proceed, Captain? Reed thought for a moment, and was surprised when the ship's systems responded instantly to his thoughts, presenting him with tactical options. Let's see what they've got first, he decided. Then we hit back. On the bridge of the Iron Windstrike, Commander Drav watched the small human vessel with disdain. Time is up, he announced to his crew. They have chosen destruction. Target their main power core and fire. The weapons officer pressed a sequence of buttons. Main plasma cannon charged and ready, Commander. Fire, Drav ordered. The massive battlecruiser's primary weapon unleashed a blinding beam of energy that streaked toward the Endurance. In the control room of the Endurance, the crew watched anxiously as the fresh weapon approached. Brace for impact, Wright shouted. But instead of the violent shudder they expected, they felt only a slight vibration as the beam struck the ship. What just happened? Turner asked, looking at the displays. Mason pointed to one of the screens. Look at the shield readouts. They're actually getting stronger. In the core chamber, Reed felt the impact of the fresh weapon as a warm pressure against his expanded consciousness. But instead of pain, he felt a surge of power. The adaptive shields are working, Atlas informed him. They are absorbing and redirecting the energy from the fresh weapon. Shield strength now at 110% of baseline. Reed smiled. So the more they shoot at us, the stronger we become, Atlas completed the thought. This was the primary innovation of the Endurance, the ability to learn from and adapt to enemy attacks in real time. Reed could sense the confusion on the fresh battlecruiser. Their sensors were trying to make sense of what had just happened. They're preparing to fire again, he said. Multiple weapon systems this time. Shall we return fire? Atlas asked. Reed considered this. Not yet. Let them waste more energy on us first. On the Iron Windstrike, Commander Drav could not believe the readings on his display. Impossible, he muttered. Full power plasma cannon, and not even a dent in their shields. His second-in-command approached cautiously. Commander, that vessel matches the description of the human prototype from the ancient records. Drav's eyes widened. The ghost ship. That's just a story to frighten young Vresh. The records were quite clear, Commander. 300 years ago, the humans developed a ship that could adapt to any weapon used against it. Our ancestors, they stole the plans and sabotaged the project. Why would they do that? Drav demanded. Because if the humans had built more ships like that one, they would have become equals to the Vresh. Our technological superiority would have meant nothing. Drav looked back at the view screen where the small human vessel waited, seemingly unharmed by their most powerful weapon. All weapons, he ordered. Fire everything we have. Reed felt the barrage of energy weapons slam into the Endurance from all directions. This time, the impact was stronger, but still not damaging. Instead, he could feel the ship's systems analyzing each weapon, learning its frequency, its pattern, its weakness. Shield strength now at 140% of baseline. Atlas reported. All Vresh weapon signatures cataloged and countermeasures developed. Through the ship's sensors, Reed could see the Iron Windstrike launching missiles now, desperate to find some way to damage the Endurance. Enough plain defense, Reed decided. Show me what this ship can really do. The ship's systems responded instantly, offering a menu of weapon options. Some Reed recognized, others were completely foreign to him. "What's a molecular destabilizer?" he asked. "A weapon that targets the molecular bonds of a specific material," Atlas explained. "It can cause targeted sections of an enemy ship to simply come apart." Reed whistled. "That sounds effective. Can we use it to disable their engines without destroying the whole ship?" "Precision targeting is possible," Atlas confirmed. "However, I should inform you that the Vresh are now charging their main weapon to maximum power. The next hit will be significantly stronger." Reed made his decision. Target their main weapon first, then their engines. Fire when ready. On the bridge of the Iron Windstrike, the crew worked frantically to channel every bit of power into their main plasma cannon. "Maximum charge achieved, Commander," the weapons officer reported. "This will penetrate their shields." Drav nodded grimly. "Fire." He never finished the order. A beam of pale blue light shot from the human vessel, striking the Iron Windstrike precisely where its main weapon was housed. There was no explosion, no fire. Instead, the entire weapon array simply fell apart, pieces drifting away into space as if they had never been connected. "What just happened?" Drav demanded, his voice rising in panic. Before anyone could answer, another beam struck the massive engines at the rear of the battlecruiser. Like the weapon before them, the engines simply disintegrated, leaving the Vresh vessel dead in space. In the control room of the Endurance, the crew cheered as they watched the Iron Windstrike go dark. "He did it," Lopes shouted. The captain disabled their weapons and engines. Wright was studying the readings on her console. "The technology in this ship, it's incredible. Those weapons aren't even theoretical in our current science. And now we know why the Vresh were so desperate to get their hands on it." Mason added, "This ship could change everything." Turner looked concerned. "But at what cost to the captain?" "It's been 20 minutes since he went into that chamber." In the core chamber, Reed was lost in the vast consciousness of the ship. He could feel everything. Every system, every power conduit, every sensor reading. It was intoxicating. "The threat has been neutralized, Captain," Atlas said. "It is time to end the integration." But Reed hesitated. "We've only scratched the surface of what this ship can do. With more time, I could learn to control all its systems perfectly." "Captain Reed," Atlas's voice was firm. "Extended integration is not recommended. The human mind is not designed to maintain this level of expanded consciousness for prolonged periods." Reed knew the eye was right, but it was hard to let go of such power. Finally, he nodded. "Disengage the integration." Slowly, Reed's consciousness returned to the confines of his body. The helmet lifted away, and the restraints released his limbs. He felt dizzy and weak, but also somehow changed. He had experienced something few humans ever had, to be more than human, even if just for a little while. As Reed staggered back to the control room, his mind was filled with revelations about the Endurance, its purpose, and why it had been hidden away. This ship wasn't just a weapon. It was a key to humanity's future among the stars. A future where humans would never again be treated as inferiors by species like the Vresh. News of what happened to the Iron Windstrike spread quickly across Vresh space. The most feared battle cruiser in the Confederacy fleet, disabled by a single ancient human vessel. It was unthinkable. On the Endurance, 3 days had passed since the battle. Reed had spent most of that time recovering from the integration process. His mind felt different somehow, sharper, faster, as if some of Atlas had remained with him even after disconnection. The crew gathered in the control room, which they now used as their main meeting space. The atmosphere was tense but excited. "We've received 17 messages from various human colonies and stations," Mason reported. "Everyone wants to know about the ship that defeated the Iron Windstrike." "What about the Fresh?" Reed asked. "That's the interesting part," Turner said. "Instead of more battlecruisers, they've sent diplomats. 3 ships carrying Confederacy officials are requesting permission to approach and open talks." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Diplomats? That's new." "They're scared," Lopes said. "For 300 years, the Vresh have treated humans like children. Now suddenly we have a ship that can take down their best battlecruiser without breaking a sweat. We also have a decision to make," Wright added. "The Earth Defense Council has requested that we bring the Endurance to Earth immediately. They're claiming authority over it as a recovered military asset." Reed leaned back in his chair. The past few days had given him time to think about what they had found and what it meant. This wasn't just any ship. It was a turning point in human history. "Atlas," Reed called. "What was the original purpose of Project Equalizer?" The AI's voice filled the room. Project Equalizer was designed to create a technological counterbalance to potential alien threats. The goal was not military conquest, but to ensure humans would be treated as equals in any interstellar community they encountered. "And what happened?" Reed asked. "Why was only 1 ship built?" "According to my records, Vresh agents infiltrated the project and sabotaged it. They arranged for an accident at Jupiter Station that made the project appear dangerous. The Endurance was hidden away rather than destroyed because its creators believed humanity might one day need it. That day has come," Mason said quietly. Reed nodded. "The question is, what do we do with it? Hand it over to Earth authorities? Keep it for ourselves? Destroy it?" The crew looked at each other, the weight of the decision heavy on their shoulders. "If we give it to the Defense Council, they'll use it to build weapons," Wright said. "Maybe start a war with the Vresh. If we keep it, we'll be hunted by both humans and Vresh," Turner pointed out. "And if we destroy it, we lose the only leverage humans have ever had against the Vresh," Lopes finished. Reed stood up and walked to the main view screen, which showed the 3 Vresh diplomatic vessels approaching cautiously. "Maybe there's another option," he said. "Atlas, can this ship be registered as an independent entity under Galactic Confederacy law?" "Interesting question, Captain," the AI replied. "Yes, there is a provision in Confederacy law that allows for sentient ships to be registered as independent entities, similar to how colony worlds can apply for independent status." "Has any human ship ever done this?" Reed asked. "No, the provision was created for the living ships of the Medusan Collective. No human vessel has ever qualified as sentient under Confederacy definitions." Reed smiled. "Until now." The meeting room on the lead Vresh diplomatic vessel was designed to intimidate. The ceiling was too high for human comfort, the seats too large, the temperature too cold. It was a subtle reminder of Vresh superiority. But today, the 5 humans who entered did not seem intimidated at all. The lead Vresh diplomat, Administrator Krell, rose to his full height, towering over the humans. "Captain Reed," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "The Confederacy Council wishes to discuss the incident with the Iron Windstrike." Reed met his gaze steadily. "I thought we might. But before we begin, I should inform you that we have filed for independent entity status for the Endurance under Confederacy Law Section 47B. Krell's yellow eyes widened. "That section applies to sentient vessels. Your ship is merely a machine." "Atlas, would you like to introduce yourself?" Reed said. A holographic projection appeared beside Reed, taking the form of a glowing blue sphere. "Greetings, Administrator Krell," Atlas said. I am the Adaptive Tactical Learning Analysis System of the vessel Endurance. I meet all 7 criteria for sentience under Confederacy law, including self-awareness, independent decision-making, and emotional response capabilities. Krell sank slowly back into his seat. This is unprecedented. The application has already been received by the Confederacy Central Registry, Reed continued. And while it's being processed, I thought we might discuss a new relationship between humans and the Vresh. What kind of relationship? Krell asked cautiously. One of equals, Reed said simply. The kind your ancestors prevented 3 centuries ago, when they sabotaged Project Equalizer. Krell's skin paled. Those are serious accusations. They're not accusations. They're facts, documented in the Endurance's records. Reed leaned forward. We're not interested in revenge, Administrator, but we are interested in truth and equality. 2 weeks later, the crew of the Endurance stood on the observation deck, watching as Earth grew larger in the view screen. They had been summoned by the Defense Council to explain their actions. Are you sure about this, Captain? Mason asked. The Council won't be happy that we registered the ship as an independent entity. Reed nodded. They'll understand once we explain. The Endurance was never meant to be a weapon of war. It was meant to be a shield, a guarantee that humans would have a place at the table. And now we do, Lopes said. I still can't believe the Vresh agreed to revise all those trade agreements. They didn't have much choice, Herner pointed out. Not after we showed we could take down their best ship. Wright, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. It's not just about the Vresh, though, is it? What happens when Earth wants to use the Endurance against other species? Reed turned to face his crew. That's why we're here. To make sure everyone understands what this ship really is. It's not a weapon to conquer. It's a shield to protect. And if they don't agree? Mason asked. Reed smiled. Then they'll have to deal with not just me, but all of you, and 8 less. We're a package deal now. Speaking of which, Wright said, what's our official status now that the Endurance is an independent entity? According to Confederacy law, we're officially the governing crew of an independent vessel state, Reed explained. Basically, we're diplomats. Turner laughed. Diplomats with the most powerful ship in the galaxy. The best kind, Lopes added with a grin. As Earth filled the view screen, Reed felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. What had started as a simple salvage operation had turned into something much bigger. A chance to reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. The ancient ship that no one had feared had changed everything. And this was just the beginning. At last, Reed said, open a channel to Earth Defense Council. Let's tell them the good news. Channel open, Captain, the eye replied. Reed took a deep breath. Earth Defense Council. This is Captain Jack Reed of the independent vessel Endurance. We bring news of peace and a new beginning for humanity among the stars. Behind him, his crew stood tall and proud. They had found a derelict, awakened a legend, and faced down the mighty iron Windstrike. Now, they were about to change history. Not bad for a salvage crew.
The big meeting room was very quiet. All the alien leaders from different planets sat in their special chairs.
Ow!
The room was round like a circle.
Ow!
Lights from the ceiling made everything glow with soft colors. In the middle of the room, one alien stood up slowly. His name was Zethkar. He came from a planet far away where his people had hard shells like crystals. These shells could change colors to show how he felt. Right now, the colors were dark and scary. His 6 arms moved as he tried to stay calm. Zethkar looked around the room at all the other aliens. There were big ones and small ones. It's fur. Some had scales, and some looked like walking trees. They were all part of the Galactic Council. This was where all the smart alien races came to talk about important things. My friends, Zethkar said. His voice came out through a special machine that helped everyone understand each other. I need to tell you something very important. Something that will scare you. A big alien with red skin and sharp teeth laughed. His name was General Crocs. He was a soldier who liked to fight wars. What could scare the great Vorthok Empire?
How?
You have the biggest army in the galaxy. Zethkar's shell colors got even darker. He pointed to a big screen that showed a picture of space. On the screen was a small blue and green planet. It looked very pretty and peaceful. This planet is called Earth, Zethkar said. It goes around a yellow star. The people who live there call themselves humans. Some of the aliens started talking to each other. They had never heard of humans before. The planet looked very small and far away. Why was Zethkar talking about such a tiny world? General Crocs made a sound like he was bored. One little planet worries you. They do not even have ships that can fly to other stars. They are just babies. Zethkar closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his whole body was shaking. A little 3 years ago, my empire sent our 47th Conquest Fleet to that little planet. We had 12 of our biggest warships. We had 47 smaller fighting ships. We had more than 2 million soldiers. The room got very quiet again. Everyone knew about the 47th Conquest Fleet. It was one of the strongest armies in the galaxy. It could destroy whole planets if it wanted to. We did what we always do, Zethkar continued. We flew to their planet. We told them to give up and become our slaves. We showed them our big guns. We waited for them to say yes and beg for mercy. Alien that looked like a giant bug leaned forward. What happened? Did they fight back with sticks and stones? Zethkar looked at the bug alien. His shell was now completely black, which meant he was very afraid. I was the only one who escaped. Out of 2 million soldiers and all those ships, only I came back home.
Oh.
Nobody believed him at first. How could one small planet defeat the mighty Vorthok Empire? It was impossible. The humans did not even have the right technology. Their ships could barely leave their own planet. Zethkar touched a button on his chair. The big screen changed. Now it showed what really happened during the battle. Alien leaders watched as Vorthok ships flew toward Earth's moon. The ships looked powerful and scary. Then something strange happened on the screen. Human ships started coming out of hiding places. They came from behind asteroids, came from inside the rings around planets. They even came from inside gas clouds, where no one should be able to live. The human ships looked very different from alien ships. They were not smooth and pretty. They looked like they were made from old mining equipment and factory parts. They had big engines that burned very bright. They looked rough and dangerous. They were waiting for us, Zethkar said in a whisper. They knew we were coming before we even decided to attack them. They had been watching us for years. They learned about our ships. They learned about our weapons. They learned about how we fight. On the screen, the battle began. The Vorthok ships fired their best weapons at the humans, but the humans did not try to run away. Instead, they attacked back with weapons that should not have worked. They threw big rocks at very high speed. They used nuclear bombs as bullets. They rammed their own ships into Vorthok ships. They do not fight like us, Zethkar explained. When we fight, we try to win with the least damage. We follow rules, try to be honorable. But humans, ... Humans fight to destroy everything. They fight like they want to kill every single enemy. They do not care if they die, as long as their enemy dies too. The aliens in the room watched in shock as the human ships tore through the Vorthok fleet. The humans used tricks that no civilized race would think of. They pretended to be dead, then attacked when the Vorthok ships came close. They hid bombs inside fake surrender messages, even crash-damaged ships into Vorthok engines. Look. At their faces, Zethkar said, pointing to pictures of human soldiers. Do you see fear? Do you see doubt? No, you see anger. You see determination. These are not people who will ever give up. An alien that looked like a tall, thin tree spoke up. But surely they must have some weakness. Every race has something that can defeat them. Zethkar laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. Their weaknesses is that they care about each other too much. But that is also their greatest strength. When you hurt one human, all the other humans become angry. They will chase you across the galaxy to get revenge. He pointed to the screen again. Now it showed Earth after the battle. Instead of being scared, the humans were building more ships. They were making their weapons bigger. They were getting ready for the next attack. They'd been fighting each other for thousands of years, Zethkar said. They know every possible way to hurt someone. Every trick, every trap, every cruel method of war. And now they know we exist. They know there are other races out here who want to hurt them. General Croc stood up, angry. You were just scared because you lost one battle. My hegemony fleet is much stronger than your Vorthok ships. We will show these humans what real power looks like. Zethkar looked at the general with pity. Go ahead, General. Attack the humans. But remember what I told you today. Remember that I warned you. His shell began to glow with sad blue colors. And when your fleet is destroyed and you are floating in space with no ship, think about this moment. Think about how you could have listened. The meeting ended with many aliens arguing. Some believed Zethkar's warning. Others thought he was just embarrassed about losing. But deep in space, human ships were already moving toward the stars, carrying a simple message that would soon reach every corner of the galaxy. The message was this: humanity was no longer alone, and anyone who tried to hurt them would learn why they had survived so long on their dangerous little planet. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the command deck of her ship. The ship was called the UES Defiance. It was the first real warship that humans had ever built. Around her, the crew worked very hard. These people used to have different jobs. Some were miners who dug rocks from asteroids. Some were engineers who built things. Some were soldiers. Some were scientists. But now they all had the same job: protect Earth from aliens who wanted to hurt them. Sarah watched a big screen that showed what was happening at the alien meeting. She could see all the different alien leaders talking about humans. Some of them looked scared. Others looked angry. Few looked like they wanted to fight. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Jackson. He had a robot eye that could connect to the ship's computer. "The aliens are still talking about whether to believe the Vorthok guy. The hegemony is getting ready to send 3 big fleets to attack us. The Savari Dominion is sending ships to watch what happens." Sarah nodded. She was not surprised. In the 2 years since the Vorthok attacked Earth, humans had learned a lot about their space neighbors. Most alien races were very old and comfortable. When they got the technology to travel between stars, they joined the Galactic Council and stopped trying to get better. They fought wars like it was a game with rules. They talked instead of acting. They thought fighting was something you did when you were bored, not when you were trying to stay alive. Humans saw things very differently. On Earth, everything was always trying to kill everything else. Humans had to fight to survive every single day. They learned that the only way to win a fight was to make sure your enemy could never fight you again. Admiral Reyes says our defenses are ready, Sarah continued, looking at another screen. All the gun platforms around our planets are loaded and aimed. All the secret bases in the asteroids are awake. Our fleet is hiding in Shell Formation 7. The people working on the ship smiled when they heard this. Shell Formation 7 was not really a way to defend Earth. It was a trap. It made Earth look like bait, while humanity's real weapons stayed hidden in the dark parts of the solar system. The aliens would think they were attacking a weak planet, but they would really be walking into a killing zone. Dr. Elizabeth Warren walked up to Sarah. She used to study aliens and try to talk to them peacefully. "Captain, we are getting messages from 17 different alien groups. They all want to be friends with humans now, before the fighting starts." Sarah's smile was sharp like a knife. "How nice of them. Send them our usual answer, humans. Thank them for caring, but we like to handle our own problems." The aliens did not understand something very important about humans. Ever since humans first looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there, they had been getting ready for this moment. Every scary story about space monsters, every movie about alien invasions, every book about war in space had been practice. Humans had been training their whole lives for the day when something from space tried to hurt them. The answer was not just staying alive. The answer was winning so completely that no one would ever try to hurt humans again. Sarah walked to the front of the ship where she could see space through the big windows. Out there, hidden in the darkness, were thousands of human ships and weapons. Most of them did not look like warships. They looked like mining equipment or science stations. This was on purpose. Humans had learned that the best way to hide a weapon was to make it look like something harmless. "How long until the hegemony fleet gets here?" Sarah asked. 18 hours, Captain," Jackson answered. "They are coming fast, but they are also coming loud. We can see them from very far away." Sarah laughed quietly. The aliens still did not understand. They flew through space like they owned it. They announced where they were going and when they would arrive. They followed the same attack patterns they had used for thousands of years. They thought war was a formal dance with steps that everyone knew. Humans had spent their whole history fighting each other. They knew every dirty trick, every sneaky plan, every cruel way to hurt an enemy. They had learned these things by fighting wars on their own planet, where losing meant your people died and your cities burned. There were no rules in human wars, except one: win or die. "Send a message to all our hidden ships," Sarah ordered. "Tell them the aliens are coming. Let them to get ready to show our visitors how humans really fight." The crew started working. Faster, they checked their weapons and made sure their engines were ready. Through the ship's communication system, Sarah could hear similar activity on hundreds of other human ships. Everyone was getting ready for the most important battle in human history. Dr. Warren looked worried. "Captain, what if we lose? What if there are too many of them?" Sarah turned to look at her. "Elizabeth, do you know what humans are really good at?" "What?" "Learning from our mistakes. Every time someone beats us, we figure out how they did it. Then we make sure it never happens again. The Vorthok taught us that aliens exist and that they want to hurt us. Now we know. Now we are ready." She pointed to the screen showing the alien council meeting. "Look at them. They think this is going to be easy. They think we are just another primitive planet that will beg for mercy when they show up with their big ships." Sarah's voice got harder. "They're about to learn that humans do not beg. We do not surrender. We do not give up. If someone tries to hurt us, we hurt them back 10 times worse. We make sure everyone else in the galaxy sees. What happens to people who threaten Earth?" The bridge got very quiet as everyone thought about what was coming. In 18 hours, the real test would begin. Not just whether humans could defend their planet, but whether they could prove to the galaxy that Earth was not a target to attack. It was a planet to fear. Outside the ship, in the cold darkness of space, human preparations continued. Weapons that had been disguised as mining tools revealed their true purpose. Ships that looked like peaceful explorers opened hidden gun ports. Soldiers who had been pretending to be simple workers put on their battle armor. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you picked a fight with a species that had spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently. The lesson was going to be written in fire and blood across the stars. The hegemony war fleet came out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a parade of death. General Croc stood in the control room of his biggest ship, the Eternal Domination. He looked at the screen showing his fleet with great pride. 300 ships floated in perfect formation. This was the largest fighting force that had been put together in 50 years. 7 different alien races had sent their best ships and soldiers. "Look at these pathetic humans," said his helper, reading the reports about Earth's defenses. "They still use chemical rockets like children playing with toys. Their biggest weapons are simple nuclear bombs. They have barely started to use the resources in their own solar system." General Croc smiled with his sharp teeth. The humans had been given one day to surrender completely. Their answer had been very simple and very rude. Come and take it. No diplomacy, no begging, no attempt to find a way to save face. Just defiance from a species that did not understand how small and weak they were. The tactical screen updated as the fleet moved deeper into the human solar system. Human ships began to appear, exactly as the alien computers had predicted. A few dozen vessels that were clearly built for war spread out into basic defensive positions around the inner planets. They looked crude and simple compared to the sleek alien ships. "Begin the demonstration," General Croc ordered. "Target their largest military base." The first wave of plasma bolts streaked toward Luna Base, humanity's most visible military facility on their moon. The base's energy shields flared bright blue and then collapsed under the bombardment. Buildings and weapon platforms exploded. in brilliant flashes that could be seen from Earth's surface. For a moment, the human fleet stayed where it was. Then, as General Crox watched with satisfaction, they began to retreat toward Earth. This was exactly what the hegemony's war computers had said would happen. The primitive humans would run home to make their last stand around their home planet. "Follow them and destroy them," General Crox commanded. "Make it quick and clean." The human ships continued to fall back, occasionally turning to launch kinetic weapons that bounced harmlessly off the hegemony's energy shields. These were simple metal slugs fired at high speed. Primitive and ineffective. It was almost disappointing how easily the humans were being herded toward their final defeat near their homeworld. The alien fleet moved confidently through the asteroid belt, ignoring the floating rocks and debris. Their sensors showed only the retreating human ships ahead and empty space behind. Victory was certain. Then the trap was sprung. What the hegemony had dismissed as simple asteroid mining operations suddenly came to life. Massive chunks of rock split open to reveal weapon platforms that had been hidden inside. What had looked like harmless scientific research stations unfolded into enormous railgun installations that could throw projectiles at incredible speeds. The ice and rock of the outer solar system exploded into coordinated action as humanity's true defense network revealed itself. Weapons that had been disguised as industrial equipment opened fire from every direction. The aliens found themselves surrounded by a killing field that stretched across billions of miles. But the real shock came when the retreating human ships suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. Their engines revealed themselves as barely contained fusion reactors that burned like tiny stars. No crew should have been able to survive the acceleration forces. But somehow the humans had found a way. General Crox watched his tactical display in growing horror as red warning symbols appeared everywhere. Ships were being destroyed faster than his computers could count them. The neat hegemony formations dissolved into chaos as captains tried desperately to understand what was happening. "How?" he whispered. "How did they hide all this?" "Our sensors showed nothing but mining equipment and research stations." His science officer's voice was shaking with fear. "Sir, they used our own assumptions against us. We classified anything that looked industrial as harmless. We ignored the mining platforms because they seemed too crude to be weapons. We dismissed the research stations because they appeared to be studying ice formations." On the screen, General Crox watched a human ship ram directly into one of his cruisers. Both ships exploded, but more human vessels immediately moved in to attack the survivors, trying to escape the wreckage. The humans were not just fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure no alien ship escaped to report what had happened. "They are not fighting like civilized beings," his tactical officer reported. "They are using suicide attacks. They are targeting our rescue shuttles. They are finishing off damaged ships instead of accepting surrender." General Crox finally understood what Ambassador Zethkar had tried to tell the Galactic Council. This was not a war between civilized species with rules and honor. This was extermination. The humans were not trying to defeat the hegemony fleet. They were trying to kill every single alien who had dared to threaten their world. A human missile pierced his flagship's shields and exploded against the hull. The lights flickered as systems failed throughout the ship. Through the chaos, General Crox could hear his communications officer trying to contact the remaining ships. "Fleet Command, this is Cruiser Division 7. We are surrounded. Requesting immediate assistance. Fleet Command, please respond." But there was no Fleet Command anymore. The humans had targeted the command ships first, cutting off the aliens' ability to coordinate their defense. Now each ship was fighting alone against an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Another explosion rocked the eternal domination. General Crox grabbed onto his command chair as the deck tilted under his feet. His aide looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Sir, what are your orders?" General Crox looked at the tactical display one more time. Red symbols marked the locations of destroyed hegemony ships. Green symbols showed human vessels moving through the wreckage like sharks hunting wounded prey. In less than an hour, his mighty fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors trying desperately to escape. "Signal all remaining ships," he said quietly. Full retreat. Emergency jump to hyperspace. Leave the system immediately. As his flagship prepared to flee, General Crox took one last look at the blue planet that had destroyed his fleet. Looked small and peaceful from this distance. It was hard to believe that such a pretty world could produce such efficient killers. The humans had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for generations. They had shown that sometimes the most dangerous predator was the one that looked harmless until it was too late to run away. Admiral Maria Reyes stood on the bridge of humanity's biggest secret. Her ship was called the UES Prometheus. It was a ship that should not exist according to everything the galaxy thought they knew about human technology, built in the shadow of Jupiter using parts taken from destroyed Vorthok ships. It was humanity's first real starship, could travel between stars just like alien vessels. The crew had been waiting 2 years for this moment. Around her, the tactical displays showed the battle in the inner solar system. The hegemony fleet was falling apart. Their neat formations had broken into individual ships trying to survive. Kinetic weapons launched from human positions throughout the outer system were hitting their targets with devastating accuracy. Each projectile had been carefully aimed to exploit blind spots in alien defense systems. "Ma'am," reported her tactical officer, "enemy losses are at 47% and rising. They are trying to group together around the gas giant for protection, Admiral." Reyes nodded, but her mind was focused on the bigger picture. This battle was never really about defending Earth. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity had spent every day since the Vorthok attack preparing for exactly this situation. They had learned from every mistake their enemies had made. "Signal all units," she ordered. "Execute Prometheus Protocol." Throughout the Sol system, the final phase of humanity's plan began to unfold. Ships that had been destroyed in the opening attacks suddenly came back to life. Their deaths had been elaborate tricks using holographic projectors and real debris clouds to fool alien sensors. Automated weapon platforms that seemed to have run out of ammunition revealed hidden storage compartments full of more missiles. Human crews that should have been demoralized by losses instead attacked with renewed fury. But the real surprise came when the Prometheus and her sister ships appeared throughout the enemy formation. They had been invisible, hidden by technology that combined human engineering with salvaged alien equipment. These ships represented something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that learned from every encounter, adapted faster than their enemies could respond. The first alien ship to detect the Prometheus was a hegemony destroyer called the Swift Death. Its captain sent an emergency message to the rest of the fleet. "Unknown human vessels appearing inside our formation. They have cloaking technology. How is this possible?" Admiral Reyes smiled grimly as she watched the alien ship try to turn its weapons toward her. The Prometheus was faster and more maneuverable than any ship the aliens had ever faced. It had been built by a species that understood that war was not a gentleman's game with rules and honor. War was about killing your enemy before they could kill you. "Target their engines," she commanded. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We need prisoners for intelligence." The Prometheus fired a focused beam that sliced through the destroyer's engine compartments like a knife through paper. The alien ship went dead in space, unable to move or fight back. Human boarding shuttles were already on their way to capture. The crew, all around the battle zone, similar scenes were playing out. The other Prometheus-class ships were systematically dismantling what remained of the hegemony fleet. They moved like wolves hunting a herd of prey animals, coordinating their attacks with deadly precision. Captain Torres, commanding the UES Titan, reported over the communication system. "Admiral, we have successfully captured 3 enemy cruisers intact. The aliens are beginning to surrender en masse." "Negative," Admiral Reyes replied firmly. "No surrenders. We are not here to take prisoners today. We are here to make sure word gets back to the galaxy about what happens when you attack humanity." This was the lesson that Ambassador Zethkar had tried to teach the Galactic Council, but they had not listened. Humans did not fight like other species. When threatened, they did not seek honorable combat or limited victory. They sought total destruction of anything that posed a threat to their survival. The tactical display showed the remaining alien ships trying desperately to escape to hyperspace. Some were successful, but many more were being hunted down by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. The humans had planned for this too. They wanted some aliens to escape so they could spread the word about what they had witnessed. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender offers from 12 different alien ships. They are offering to become our slaves if we spare their lives." Admiral Reyes considered this for a moment. The old Maria Reyes, the one who existed before the Vorthok attack, might have accepted these surrenders. She had been raised to believe in mercy and the rules of civilized warfare. But that woman had died the day aliens first fired on human civilians. "Inform them that humanity does not take slaves," she replied. "Tell them they have one choice: leave our solar system immediately and never return, or be destroyed where they float." This was the message that needed to be delivered to every species in the galaxy. Humans were not conquerors who wanted to rule over other races. They were not interested in building an empire or collecting tribute. They wanted only one thing: to be left alone to develop in peace. But if anyone disturbed that peace, they would discover that humanity's response would be swift, brutal, and absolute. The Prometheus moved through the wreckage of the hegemony fleet like a predator examining its kill. Escape pods were launching from damaged ships as alien crews abandoned their vessels. The humans allowed these pods to leave. Some survivors needed to make it home to tell their leaders what had happened here. "Admiral," her science officer called out, "we are detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships jumping to other star systems." "Good," Admiral Reyes said. "Let them run. Let them tell everyone what they saw here today." She walked to the main view screen and looked out at Earth. The blue planet hung peacefully in space, showing no signs of the terrible battle that had just been fought in its defense. But Admiral Reyes knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer a hidden species on a single world. They were now players in the galactic game. And they had just announced their presence in the language that every species understood. Overwhelming force applied with surgical precision, the hunt was over. The message had been delivered. Now the galaxy would have to decide how to respond to the fact that humanity had claimed its place among the stars. And they had done it by proving that they were the most dangerous predators in the void. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the Galactic Council met again in emergency session. The great meeting room that once held confident representatives from dozens of star-traveling civilizations now hosted a very different gathering. Many seats sat empty. Their owners' fleets had been turned into scattered debris around a small blue world in the outer rim. Ambassador Zethkar stood before the assembly once more. His crystalline shell now bore deep scars from his second encounter with humanity. Behind him, the holographic display showed not Earth, but dozens of worlds throughout the local spiral arm where human ships had been detected moving at impossible speeds. "The humans call it diaspora," he explained to the hushed chamber. "While we counted our losses and planned our responses, they were spreading. Mining ships, research vessels, colony expeditions, all moving faster than we thought their technology could achieve. They're not just defending a single world anymore. They're claiming territory throughout the galaxy." In the observer's gallery, Captain Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with professional interest. As humanity's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council, she was here to deliver a message that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Her uniform was simple and practical. Nothing like the elaborate ceremonial dress worn by other species. Diplomats. The council chamber buzzed with nervous conversation as various alien representatives tried to understand what humanity's expansion meant for their own territories. Some species had already reported human ships appearing in their systems, conducting what appeared to be peaceful surveys. But after the destruction of the hegemony fleet, no one was willing to assume human intentions were truly peaceful. The Savari Dominion speaker, a tall being with silver skin and multiple eyes, stood to address Zethkar. "How many human ships are we talking about? Our intelligence suggests they have deployed at least 50 vessels beyond their home system." Zethkar's scarred shell flickered with dark humor. "Your intelligence is wrong. We have confirmed sightings of over 300 human vessels in 47 different star systems. Those are just the ones they allow us to see." A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. 300 ships meant humanity had somehow built a fleet larger than most established galactic powers in just 6 months. Either they had been hiding their true industrial capacity, or they had developed manufacturing techniques that surpassed anything known to galactic science. The truth, which none of the aliens had guessed, is that humans had been preparing for interstellar expansion since the day they first detected alien radio signals 50 years ago. Every space program, every industrial project, every technological development had been guided by the assumption that someday they would need to spread beyond Earth to survive. When called to address the assembly, Captain Chen walked to the center of the chamber with the confident stride of someone who had never been defeated. Her words were simple, direct, and completely without compromise. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with all sentient species. She began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation system. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation to any civilization willing to respect our sovereignty and that of our allies. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled delegates. Many of them looked uncomfortable under her steady stare. Humans had a way of looking at other beings that made them feel like prey animals being studied by a predator. However, Chen continued, any species that threatens human civilians, human territory, or human interests will discover that we are very, very good at war. We have had 10,000 years of practice fighting each other, and we have learned that the only way to ensure lasting peace is to make war too costly for our enemies to contemplate. The chamber remained silent as she delivered the next part of her message. The hegemony learned this lesson at Seoul. The Savari Dominion is learning. It now, as our expeditionary force investigates their recent attacks on neutral shipping lanes. The Keth Collective will learn it next week when our diplomatic mission reaches their core worlds to discuss their slave trading activities. Several alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. The humans were not just defending themselves anymore. They were actively hunting down any species that violated what they considered acceptable behavior. The galaxy's long-established system of ritualized warfare and negotiated settlements was being replaced by something much more direct and final. Chen turned to face Zethkar directly. Your people were the first to attack us, Ambassador. We're also the first to withdraw from the conflict and seek peaceful relations after you realized your mistake. This is why the Vorthok Empire will be among humanity's first trading partners in the new galactic order. As she walked back to the observer's gallery, the implications of her words settled over the assembly like a cold shadow. The galaxy had produced many apex predators throughout its long history. The hegemony's shock troops could tear through enemy lines like living weapons. The Dominion's war fleets could reduce planets to lifeless rocks. The Collective's hive-minded billions could overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers. But none of them had ever been pack hunters. None of them had ever learned to turn their greatest strength, their unity against external threats, into a weapon that could reshape the fundamental nature of interstellar civilization. The Galactic Council had always operated on the assumption that space was vast enough for every species to claim her territory and occasionally fight limited wars over disputed resources. Conflicts were settled through negotiation, tribute, or brief military actions that followed established rules. Humanity had rejected this entire system. They did not want to participate in galactic politics as it had always been conducted. Were writing new rules in the only language they truly understood. Absolute victory over anyone foolish enough to threaten their pack. Captain Chen took her seat in the observer's gallery and watched as the alien delegates began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to form an alliance against humanity before it was too late. Others insisted that cooperation was the only path to survival. A few suggested that the galaxy should simply accept human dominance as the new reality. What none of them understood was that the decision was no longer theirs to make. In the depths of space, human ships continued their expansion, carrying with them the simple message that had defined their species since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. The message was this: we are here. We are strong. We are united. And we remember our friends and our enemies with equal clarity. The age of ritual warfare and comfortable stagnation was over. The humans had arrived, and they were teaching the galaxy a new way to live among the stars.